Have you ever heard a phrase that just kind of makes you stop and go, wait, what? Today we're going to be diving into one of those Zen Metal, the etymological havoc of our age.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it sounds like almost like a concept album,
It does.
but it also makes you think like, wait, Zen and metal? Like, how do those even go together?
Yeah, totally different.
Yeah, so we've got a ton of research and articles about this phrase, and we're going to be breaking it down to see, like, what does this tell us about the way that we use language, in this kind of crazy, mixed up digital world that we live in.
Yeah.
So let's start with, like, the very basic. Zen and metal, these words seem like they're from completely different planets.
Yeah.
What do you picture when you hear the word Zen?
I think of tranquility, mindfulness, focus on inner peace, simplicity, stillness.
Right, and like those rock gardens and like super minimalist interiors, maybe like a soothing cup of tea.
Exactly.
But then boom, metal.
Loud.
Yeah, suddenly things get very loud and
A
intense.
lot more energy,
Yeah.
power, aggression, pushing boundaries.
Yeah,
And noise, lots of noise.
a lot of noise.
Like screaming guitars, pounding drums, lyrics that deal with everything from social issues to personal struggles.
Yeah, so it's like we have this built-in contradiction already from the start.
Yeah.
This clash between serenity and intensity.
Yes.
It's like a monk meditating in the middle of a mosh pit.
Right?
And it's that tension that I think makes the phrase so interesting.
Definitely.
But then there's that second part, the etymological havoc of our age. Now,
Mouthful.
etymological havoc sounds kind of scary, to be honest.
Yeah, it does.
Can you help us unpack that a little bit?
Sure. Etymology is basically the study of the origins and history of words,
Okay.
how their meanings have evolved over time.
Oh, so it's like a words family tree.
Yeah, tracing a word's family tree.
See where it comes from and how it's changed?
Exactly.
Okay, so etymology is all about order, tracing those lineages.
Yeah.
But then havoc, that suggests chaos and destruction.
Right.
So what's happening to language that could be considered havoc?
Well, etymological havoc, it suggests that something is disrupting the traditional order and meaning of language. So think about how quickly language evolves online with memes and viral trends and new slang popping up constantly.
Yeah.
Meanings shift and morph at like lightning speed.
It's like the Wild West out there.
It is.
And this phrase Zen Metal seems to be right in the middle of it all.
Right.
So is it a symptom of this havoc, an agent of it, or even a response to it?
Good question.
Like, could it be that Zen Metal itself is a reflection of how language is being, like, matched up and remixed in the digital age?
It's certainly possible the phrase itself blends these two seemingly opposite concepts,
Yeah.
just like we see all over the internet.
Right. Or maybe Zen Metal is actually contributing to the havoc by, even further blurring those lines between traditional meanings.
That's another interesting angle.
Yeah.
By combining these contrasting ideas,
Yeah.
it really challenges our assumptions about what words mean and how they should be used.
Yeah, and then there's that idea that Zen Metal is actually a response to this havoc, a way of finding meaning and stillness amidst all this chaos.
Yeah.
Like maybe it's about, finding that inner peace even when you're surrounded by a constant stream of information and shifting meanings.
Like that.
Which one do you think is the most compelling connection?
It's tough to say,
Yeah.
but I think before we come to any conclusions,
Yeah.
it's important to consider, like, what are the potential causes of this etymological havoc?
Okay.
Because whether Zen metal is a symptom or an agent or a response to this phenomenon,
Right.
it's clear that language is changing at a pace that we've never seen before.
Yeah, so what's driving all of this change?
Well, the internet, of course,
Yeah, I figured that was coming.
with its constant flow of information and instant communication,
Yeah.
has accelerated the evolution of language in ways we never could have imagined before.
Yeah. I mean, memes, viral trends, hashtags, all of that.
It changes the meaning of a word overnight.
It's like language is on fast forward.
Yeah,
And it's hard to keep up.
it is, and it's not just about speed.
Okay.
The internet is also all about remixing and recontextualizing.
Yeah.
We take words, phrases, even entire concepts, and throw them into the digital blender,
Yeah.
creating new combinations that might make sense in the moment,
Yeah.
but don't always adhere to those traditional rules of meaning.
It's like taking that peaceful Zen garden
Yeah.
and throwing a mosh pit right in the middle of it.
Right?
It's jarring.
It is.
But it's also kind of exciting.
It is.
Because it makes you question everything you thought you knew about language.
Yeah, and then there's globalization
Right.
and the increasing mixing of languages.
Yeah.
Words are constantly crossing borders, being borrowed and adapted,
Mm.
which can dilute or distort their original meanings.
It's like a global linguistic melting pot where all these different words from different cultures just simmer together
Yeah.
and create something totally new.
Exactly.
It's fascinating, but it definitely adds to that feeling that language is becoming a lot more fluid and less fixed.
Absolutely. And on top of that,
Oh, what else?
we have the influence of postmodernism and
Yeah.
deconstruction,
Yeah.
which challenge the idea of fixed meanings altogether.
So instead of looking for like the one true meaning,
Right.
we have to consider the context, the speaker's intention, all the cultural baggage that comes with it.
Exactly. It's a lot more complex, but also a lot more nuanced and interesting.
I think so too.
Yeah.
But there's one more factor we need to consider,
Oh, but
and this is a big one.
okay, I'm intrigued.
Think about how language is used in advertising and marketing.
Oh, yeah.
Words are constantly being chosen for their emotional impact and ability to sell products,
Of course.
often with little regard for their original meanings.
Right. Zen Metal itself.
I was just going to say that.
Sounds like it could be a brand name.
Right.
Maybe for a new energy drink.
Totally.
Or a line of high-tech headphones.
Yeah.
It's catchy. It's edgy.
Yeah,
But does it have anything to do with Zen Buddhism or heavy metal music?
maybe not.
Who knows?
So are we saying that Zen Metal, the etymological havoc of our age, is just a clever marketing ploy?
Not necessarily.
Oh, okay.
But it does highlight how the commodification of language can flatten its meaning
Right.
and disconnect it from its historical and cultural roots.
Yeah.
It's something to be mindful of as we navigate this ever-evolving linguistic landscape.
Yeah. Okay, so we've covered a lot of art here.
We have.
We've got Zen, we've got metal, we've got etymology, we've got havoc, and we've explored some of the forces that are really driving these rapid changes in language.
Right.
But is all this havoc really a bad thing?
Good question.
Or is it just language naturally evolving, sped up a little bit by the speed and the interconnectedness of our digital world?
Yeah.
Let's dive a little deeper into that question next.
It's interesting you use that word havoc.
Yeah.
Because it does kind of imply, like, destruction,
Yeah.
chaos. Is that really the only way to look at what's happening with language?
That's a good point. I mean, language is constantly evolving.
Yeah.
I mean, think about all the words we use now that didn't even exist a few decades ago.
Right.
Selfie meme, cloud computing.
Exactly.
So maybe what we're calling havoc is really just, a natural process of change
Yeah.
just sped up a bit.
Etymology itself shows us that words have always changed meanings,
Yeah.
blended together,
Right.
and repurposed over time.
Yeah.
So perhaps what we're seeing now is just a faster version of that natural evolution,
Right.
just fueled by the internet and all the things we talked about.
Right. Yeah. So maybe instead of etymological havoc, we could call it linguistic dynamism
I like that.
or lexical remixing.
Yeah.
Those terms seem to capture that creative energy of language
Yeah.
without that kind of doom and gloom connotation.
I like that shift in perspective.
Right.
Because instead of fearing this perceived havoc,
Yeah.
we can start to appreciate like the flexibility
Yeah.
and the inventiveness of language in our time.
It's like language needs to be able to adapt to keep up with our rapidly changing world.
Right.
If it was stuck in the past, it wouldn't be able to express all these new ideas and experiences.
Absolutely. And this is where Zen Metal becomes even more intriguing.
Okay.
What if it's not just a catchy phrase,
Yeah.
but like a models for how we approach language itself in this era of rapid change?
You mean like finding that Zen-like peace?
Yeah.
And clarity
Stillness.
within the noisy world of modern communication?
Exactly.
Kind of like finding your center in the middle of a mosh pit?
Exactly. It's about cultivating that inner stillness,
Yeah.
mindfulness,
Yeah.
even when you're bombarded with constant information opinions,
Yeah.
evolving meanings. It's about being present,
Yeah.
engaged with language, but not being swept away by it.
Right. So how do we do that?
Well, I think the key is to become more aware
Okay.
of the words we use and the words we encounter.
Okay.
Don't just accept meanings at face value.
Right.
Be curious, ask questions, dig a little deeper.
Oh, so like become a word detective.
Yes.
Uncover the hidden stories behind the language we use.
Precisely. And I think as you do that, you'll realize that language is so much more than just a tool for communication.
Right.
It's a reflection of our history,
Uh-huh.
our culture,
Yeah.
and our ever-evolving understanding of the world.
It's like language is a mirror reflecting who we are and how we see the world.
Yes,
And when you look closely at that reflection, you can learn a lot about yourself
totally.
and the society you live in.
And in a world that's often so focused on speed and efficiency,
Right.
taking the time to really savor language and appreciate those nuances can be a profoundly grounding experience.
Yeah, it's like taking a deep breath,
Mm-hmm.
finding a moment of calm in the midst of all the noise.
Exactly. And from that place of calm,
Yeah.
we can engage with language in a more mindful,
Yeah.
creative,
Uh-huh.
and meaningful way.
So we're not just talking about understanding like dictionary definitions,
Right.
but also being aware of like the cultural baggage, the emotions they evoke,
Yeah,
the ways they can shape our perception.
absolutely. It's about recognizing that language has power.
Right.
It can be used to inform and connect,
Yeah.
but it can also be used to manipulate and divide.
Right.
And once we understand that power,
Yeah.
we can use it more consciously
Yeah.
and responsibly.
It's like we're all DJs.
I love it.
You know, we're taking these different elements of language
Yeah.
and remixing them, creating our own blend.
Exactly.
But with that creative freedom comes responsibility
It
to
does.
use it wisely.
And just like learning to DJ,
Yeah.
developing this Zen Metal approach takes practice.
Yeah.
It's about being present, being curious, and challenging your assumptions.
Right. So we've talked about like a why of this Zen metal approach to language.
Yeah,
But what does it actually look like,
it's good for
in practice?
Yeah,
Can you give us some concrete examples?
sure. Well, I think what's so fascinating about Zen Metal is that it goes beyond just language.
Okay.
It's really like how we approach the world in general.
Mm.
Like finding that balance between stillness and action, reflection, and engagement.
So being more mindful of like not just the words we're using,
Right.
but the information we're taking in and how we're processing it all.
Exactly. And like one way to kind of practice this is to cultivate a sense of curiosity about language itself.
Okay.
Pay attention to the words you encounter every day.
Yeah.
Look up their etymologies, explore their nuances.
Yeah.
Don't just accept things at face value.
Right.
Dig a little deeper.
Like become a word detective, uncovering all those layers.
And I think the more you do that, the more
Yeah.
you realize that language is this like living, breathing thing. It's constantly evolving and reflecting the complexities of human experience.
And in a world that feels so fast-paced and overwhelming sometimes, just taking the time to appreciate like the richness of language can be really grounding.
Yeah, it's like finding that quiet space
Yeah.
amidst all the noise.
And then from that place of stillness, we can engage with language in a more mindful and impactful way.
Exactly.
So it's not just about understanding the dictionary definition,
Right.
but understanding the context,
Uh-huh.
the cultural baggage,
Yeah.
the emotions that words can evoke.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that language has power.
Yeah.
It can be used to inform and connect,
Right.
but it can also be used to manipulate and divide.
Yeah, and once we understand that power, we can choose to use it more consciously.
More responsibly.
Yeah, it's like we're all DJs in a way.
I love that analogy.
We're taking these different elements of language,
Yeah,
remixing them,
Mhm.
creating our own blend.
exactly.
But with that freedom comes responsibility
Definitely.
to use it wisely.
And just like learning to DJ,
Yeah,
this takes practice.
it does.
It's about being present, being curious, and challenging those assumptions.
Okay, so as we're wrapping up this deep dive into Zen metal, the etymological havoc of our age, I'm feeling optimistic.
Yeah.
Because even though this rapid evolution of language can feel really chaotic sometimes,
Mhm.
it's also a huge opportunity.
It is an opportunity to become more conscious communicators, more discerning consumers of information,
Yeah.
and more attuned to the ways that language really shapes our understanding of the world.
And maybe, just maybe, if we embrace this Zen metal mindset,
Yeah.
we can find a way to create more understanding and connection amidst all the noise.
I think you've hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
It's about finding that balance, that harmony between those seemingly opposing forces.
Well, on that note, we'll leave you with this one final thought to ponder.
Okay.
If language is constantly evolving, if meanings are always in flux, what does that tell us about truth itself?
Mhm.
Is truth something that's fixed and absolute, or is it something more fluid?
Yeah.
Something that's constantly being shaped and reshaped by the way that we use language?
Wow.
We'll leave you to grapple with that one.
That's a good one.
Until next time, keep diving deep and keep those ears open to the ever-changing symphony of language.